Aretha first told us what RSPECT meant to her.
I remember that guy. It's the president who couldn't spell. Well, he couldn't spell respect. Of course, that's Barack Hussein Obama. Why is he in the news today? We'll discuss. And welcome to Thursday. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show. My, oh my. Just when you thought the summer doldrums were going to come to Washington, D.C., all hell breaks loose on many different areas, many different levels. There is a lot happening today. We'll try and get to all of it as we did yesterday, and hope you will be part of the conversation as well. This program opens the phones every day at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. As I said, Chris is on vacation, and I will be here every day trying to uphold the fine standards of this program. Where to begin today? Well, while you were sleeping, I think something good happened. While you were asleep, the Senate actually voted and passed the clawback rescissions. That $9.4 billion clawback of unspent, previously approved funding. And this hasn't happened in a long time. And frankly, it's a very rare thing when Washington, D.C. says, hey, we shouldn't spend too much of the people's money. Let's take that back. It hasn't been spent. And so it happened. Not without a little drama, not without a little suspense. This time it did not require J.D. Vance to get involved. J.D. Vance had to, I guess he had to be on call. But the reality is only two senators didn't, on the Republican side, only two senators didn't support the rescissions. And it was the usual suspects, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. It would have been Mitch McConnell, but I think they probably had to get him to bed. The vote happened late in the evening. Every single Democrat refused to protect the people's money, every single one. But the GOP got enough to get it across the finish line, 51-48. That's a good thing. It's going to be freaking out a lot on the left, who are now worried that they're going to lose their Sesame Street. I almost said electric company, but I don't think that show's around anymore. I think that was a previous generation. But I'm hopeful that the cutbacks or the clawbacks in the money that NPR and the public broadcasting system were looking to get from the people again will maybe wake them up, and they'll realize that this is not just a handout from the government. No one should be anticipating the government support of entities that don't actually have fairness involved, because they don't. They truly don't. NPR, PBS, not exactly doing what they tell you they're doing. And the CEO was on CNN yesterday, and I think she was trying to cry a little bit. But there are a lot of receipts, as we like to say when we talk about the videos that are out there, a lot of receipts that show that NPR isn't exactly an honest broker when it comes to this. We were told over and over again that if you dare to cut a penny from NPR and PBS, then people in rural areas will not be able to get warnings when storms hit. They won't be able to get an alert because that's part of their job. Well, it may be part of what they should be doing, but it's not part of what PBS and NPR have been doing. No, they haven't been doing that. And in fact, in recent days, and this was pointed out by our friends at MRC, the Media Resource Center, that when the floods were hitting in Texas, outside of Kerrville in Kerr County, Texas, the deadly floods that killed, I guess it's over 160 people at this point, NPR wasn't sending out emergency signals. They were sending out emergency pleas for funding. They were trying to get people to spend more money, to give them more money. But the Democrats said yesterday, Chuck Schumer, talking about the matter of life and death, that we keep funding this organization that has zero balance in its reporting.
And these cuts to local stations couldn't happen at a worse time, with floods and natural disasters front of mind. When a flood happens, when a tornado touches down, when a hurricane makes landfall, people need immediate, up-to-date alerts to stay safe. And sometimes, all too often, public broadcasting is the only way for people to hear what's going on. It's a matter of life and death. So why is Donald Trump so hell-bent on taking away funding from local stations that can literally save lives?
Well, it's because they're only focused on telling one side of the story, Chuck. That's the reality. That's the truth. You will have to admit that if you take a look at it, if you step back and look at it. The CEO of NPR, as I said, was on CNN yesterday and trying to convince us that she really was an honest broker of the truth, and she's not. Catherine Maher. It looks like the name is spelled like Bill Maher's name, but I don't think they're related at all. She says we're not biased.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom.
Oh, so you'd like to know. You'd like to know which stories are showing bias. Huh. Well, our friend, Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, he's the guy that you go to when you want to find out about bias. He's just one of several people you go to when you want to find out about bias at NPR.
I want to give you a few examples of stories that NPR has published using taxpayer money. I'll just read the headlines. First headline, NPR News Service. Michael Avenatti, quote, a profile of the media-savvy attorney.
That alone should have said, okay, I'm voting to take all the money away from them. There's just that one headline. But wait, there's more.
They love Michael Avenatti.
They did.
You know where Michael Avenatti is today? He's in jail. You know why? He's a crook. But for a while, he was a media darling on NPR.
And CNN and MSNBC and anybody who had an anti-Trump bias.
Here's another headline from NPR. How racism became a marketing tool for country music.
There you go. Again, they trade on these ancient tropes that are tried and true. They're the appetizers that the Democratic Party is always putting out at their party events. It's absolutely amazing to me. Is NPR going to go away? I don't think so. But I do think we need to be continually investigating, continually reporting on all of the stuff that they have been talking about here and injecting race into country music. Excuse me, Beyonce would like a word.
I kid you not. The American taxpayers are spending $500 million a year to pay a local station to buy content that says country music is racist. Here's another headline from NPR. Donald Trump's long embrace of Vladimir Putin. Remember the Russiagate?
Yeah, I think we all do. The senator from Louisiana, who is often delivering some brutal truth punches, was absolutely spot on. The breakdown of the NPR receipts went on and on and on. And the senator also pointed out that NPR didn't tell the truth when it came to the debate that ultimately sank Joe Biden's attempt to get reelected.
And there's more. I could do this all night.
Yes, and
but I'm not. Here's some more headlines from NPR. There is no neutral. Nice white people can still be complicit in a racist society. That's what your tax dollars paid for.
Yes.
Another one. Ibram X. Kendi says no one is not racist.
No one is not racist. Are we allowed to use double negatives? Are we? Yeah, Ibram X. Kendi, the scammer who's been cashing in or was cashing in. I hope that the steps away from wokeness will be putting him in a different kind of line. He will be trying to get work without shaking down universities, etc. This is I think this is really good news. And yes, there are other stories we have to cover. We will get to the latest update on what's happening with the discussion, the argument, if you will, about the Epstein files. We will talk about some incredibly good news that came out of at least two cities as it relates to protecting children from the indoctrination scam that is known as, at least in my world, the transgender scam. We'll get into that. We have a bunch. Plus, the Kami Mandami visited D.C. yesterday, and boy, the Democrats couldn't wait to get in line in front of the media and just gush about it. Well, not all of them. We'll talk about that. But this defunding of NPR, the clawback, makes me very happy. Almost $1 billion going to be taken back. The people's money put to good use. You want to talk about it? You're welcome to. 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my buddy Chris Plant. He is on vacation, and I am thrilled to be here. And I am happy this morning. I'm not quite ebullient. I'm close to ebulliency, if that can be considered a word. But I'm very excited that the Senate moved forward because we were speculating it was going to take till Friday, till tomorrow, to push through the rescissions bill. The White House wanted it. The House passed it. There were some adjustments, so I think the House has to go back and say, okay, we're good with that. And I believe they will. But it passed, and I think the biggest thing inside this bill is the clawback from NPR. And your thoughts are welcome at 888-630-9625. I've said I'm very happy about it, and I know Senator John Kennedy very happy about it too.
Another. After Biden's debate performance, the presidential race is unchanged. This was the debate performance that President Biden gave, after which he got out of the race.
That's right. It's the debate performance that pretty much everybody in the liberal media world went, holy God, it's over, Johnny. But no, NPR said things were pretty much unchanged because they were on the dole and listening to what they were told. It's wonderful. Let's go to the phones real quick. Victor's in Silver Spring, Maryland. Good morning, Victor. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Thank you. Yeah, the only time I ever listened to public radio is Sunday night, the big broadcast. And from what I understand, the station that runs it wants to get rid of the Sunday night broadcast because I enjoyed Gunsmoke and Dragnet, and they play different old-time radio shows. What ticks me off is the guy that does the show will say, Now, in tonight's episode, you will see they weren't very nice to Indians, or, like a guilt trip. Or in this episode, Broadway is my beat, they were referred to women as, and then he would go, this is what they said in the 30s and 40s. Always doing a guilt trip, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they're doing the woke thing on you. But, I guess those are like the trigger warnings that they put on films. I hope they can survive on their own merits like the rest of us. Thank you, Victor. Let's bounce over to Maria in Falls Church, Virginia. Hello, Maria. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Yes, sir. Good morning to you, too. I just wanted to say I enjoy your program, and I also enjoy Chris's, but each time you come and when he's away, I enjoy it. I just wanted to say that I'm glad they passed it for that public station or whatever. I'm afraid I cannot talk. But I just want to let you know that I do enjoy your program, and I'm glad, that's the
Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate you, and I'm happy they took away the funding, too. Let's check in with Bob in College Park, Maryland. Hello, Bob. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were mentioning Ibram X. Kendi, and
yes,
Montgomery County Public Schools has that as their role model. He gives story time, he gives staff training, staff people, I'm not saying anyone I know, and, we're required to write an essay, all staff, required to write an essay on how they plan to be anti-racist. Now, they don't tell you that in the news media. Nobody's going to come forward. But I mean, hopefully they don't trace this call. But
I would love to see some of those essays. I wonder if it would be possible.
Well, I could probably stir one up. I'm not sure where I would send it to.
I think we might be able to, if we put you on hold, Bob, and I'm using air quotes around your name because it might even be a different name. We would love to see a copy of one of those essays. And maybe a Freedom of Information Act filing is necessary to get a copy of all those required essays of the staff, you said, right?
Yeah, that would be like 12,000, 15,000 teachers, something like that.
Wow. I wonder if any of them used artificial intelligence to write it, or if they copied something out there. Boy, that would be interesting. But thank you. That's really fascinating. Hang on, Bob. Maybe we could get that from you. I appreciate it. Checking in with one of the regulars of the Chris Plant Show, Donna from Frederick, Maryland. Hello, Donna.
Hi, Mike. Good to hear your voice again. You're doing a great job filling in this week. My point is very simple. We're winning like crazy, even if people don't even realize it. In lieu of everything that went on this week, I promise you, things will change despite all the hoopla with Epstein and all that. There's more there.
Well, we are seeing, and it just reported before we came on the air this morning, the consumer spending numbers rebounded. The retail spending numbers rebounded from last month when there was a little dip. And the left was saying, see, the tariffs are killing the economy. Nope. The Trump economy is just getting warmed up. Thank you, Donna. Appreciate you. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show on this Thursday, the 17th of July. Mike Opelka in for my buddy Chris Plant, cruising somewhere, as is his wicked custom in summers. And I'm thrilled to be here, happy to be here. Actually, I'm very excited about the coming week because the Chris Plant Show, heard nationally but based out of Washington, D.C., is also home to a huge tennis tournament starting this coming Saturday. And I might be popping in to see my nephew, Riley Opelka, playing some tennis. And one of the greats in tennis, Venus Williams, is returning to play in the D.C. tournament. So I'm kind of excited about it. I'm happy to be here on so many levels. And also, we've been talking about last night's vote in the Senate. Actually, it was this morning. I think it was 2 o'clock this morning. The Senate passed the rescissions bill that will claw back $9.4 billion of your money. I know it's not the $1 trillion that we heard about when Elon Musk was dancing around on the stage with the chainsaw. It was the taxes chainsaw massacre that we were told was going to happen with Doge. But it's a start, isn't it? It's a start. And I don't think we should ever forget that two allegedly Republican senators voted against clawing back $9.4 billion. They were upset about it. Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. McConnell didn't vote against it because I think they told him, even if you do, J.D. Vance will come in and he'll break the tie, so you can stay home and go to sleep. I still don't see why he's been allowed to linger. It's just so irritating. So irritating. But what does this mean? It means that the Corporation for Public Broadcasting will not be getting as much of your money and my money. NPR, Chris calls it National Panhandler Radio, will not be getting as much of your money and my money. And why should they? Especially when they're constantly telling people lies.
Here's one of the headlines at NPR. Arguments that trans athletes have an unfair advantage lack evidence to support.
Senator Kennedy with an ongoing list of some of the egregious violations of journalism that have been going on at NPR forever and ever. Some of the pieces of the prima facie case that I think helped carry this across the line. No Democrat would support this. Not a single one. And there are Democrats and some of their cohorts who actually came out and made statements saying that this move was akin to defunding the police. How dare you? How dare you do this? This is like defunding the police. Okay, so you're against defunding the police? I want to get you on record with that. It's really interesting to me. So many of you weighing in on this. Let's grab one more on this because we have to keep moving. There's a bunch of news today. Art is in Leesburg, Virginia, calling us at 888-630-9625. Hello, Art. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for taking my call. I'd just like to remind you and the audience of what NPR stands for, and that's nothing positive for Republicans.
I did not know that, but I'm happy.
It's in the subparagraphs under there. It's the tiny wording.
Well, that's it. You know, Chris is always admonishing us for only reading the headlines and not going deep into the articles. But, yeah, right down near the very bottom in the last paragraph. Nothing positive for Republicans. That's true. Well done, Art. I appreciate you for being there. Yeah, this story is probably going to catch fire today once all the senators get in a few hours of sleep and maybe even change clothes and have a shower and go back. And then we'll hear from the House as well. But Amy Klobuchar is one of the fear-mongers, too. Amy Klobuchar was talking about this with MSNBC.
This is completely outrageous. Remember, this is money that was already decided on by a Republican House, a Democratic Senate. It was a bipartisan agreement. And if they can just start to go in there and take away these incredibly important funds, the sky's the limit. So that's my first point to our Republican colleagues.
Well, wait a minute. Now I'm even happier. If the sky's the limit, then maybe, just maybe, Senator Klobuchar, maybe we actually can see more of the proposed or promised $1 trillion cuts from Doge in the form of clawbacks, in the form of rescissions. This is giving me new hope. But continue, madam, with your outrage.
What are you doing? I guess you'll just rubber stamp anything Donald Trump wants. But the second one is, look at what this is for. Just as we've seen these weather disasters, including horrifically in Texas, but the fires in Arizona and the like, in many remote areas, or if in states like Florida with hurricane season upon us, they rely on a series of public broadcasting to get alerts out. And
now, I don't know if any of you have had the weather week that we have had near my home and studio in Wilmington, Delaware. But we've had a whole lot of alerts come popping up on our phones recently. And so I don't necessarily need NPR. I don't need the Corporation for Public Broadcasting in order to know what's going on with the weather. There are only 2, 3 national weather channels out there at this point, and they're all there, and there are those weather radios, and like I said, your cell phone. So this argument seems to be falling flat, Senator, falling very flat. I wonder if Amy Klobuchar has, and I'm taking a total ADD sidebar here, I wonder if Amy Klobuchar is raising questions about the manifesto that was released yesterday, or was it the day before? The story of the shooter in Minnesota, the guy who tragically killed people, elected officials in Minnesota. And we finally got a look at the manifesto that he put out, his letter. That was just terrifying. It was awful stuff this guy was talking about doing. And one of the things he accused people of doing is he claimed that Tim Walz was involved in his plot. And that Governor Tim Walz, yes, the guy that was Kamala's running mate, was involved in spurring him on to doing what he was doing. And one of the things that he claimed in this letter, handwritten, no 2 pages, really difficult to read, but it was crazy. He said that Walz wanted him to kill Amy Klobuchar so that Walz could get the position as senator. It was absolutely crazy that, quote, Tim Walz wanted me to kill Amy Klobuchar. The letter was released. This thing got almost no coverage on the news because everybody's obsessed, of course, with the Epstein story. But the killer, I don't like to give these people any press. I don't like to say their names. The killer told the FBI he was instructed by Tim Walz to murder Amy Klobuchar so he could take that seat, so Walz could take that seat. Now, you can't look at this guy, this crazy man, as a credible source, but you have to wonder if there will be a further investigation to this. He wrote to Kash Patel in this letter that's now gone very public. My name is Dr. Ba. I am the shooter at large in Minnesota involved in the June 12th shootings, which happened in the early morning hours of Saturday, June 13th, sometime between 2:30 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. I will probably be dead by the time you read this letter. I wanted to share some information you might find interesting. I was told by U.S. military people on the lakes during my release. I've been in on many operations since then in Eastern Europe and North America and the Middle East and Africa, all in the line of duty, in doing what I believed was right and in the best interests of the U.S. So he's claiming he's an agent of the government in some way. He also goes on to say, I was recently approached about a project that Tim Walz wanted done. Yes, the jazz hands guy, the guy that was dancing out on stage with the weird kicks. Amy Klobuchar and Tina Keith were involved. I wasn't originally aware of the project, but Tim wanted me to kill Amy Klobuchar and Tina Keith to force a planned retirement. Yeah, I think death, that's kind of an odd way to refer to death, planned retirement. I was told Tim wasn't willing to do it. Like Walz is going to do this? Not exactly the most macho guy. And he said if I didn't call off that plan, I would go public. He said, I'm sorry, I could correct myself. I told Tim I wasn't willing to do it. So he's saying he had contact with Tim Walz. I guess we could prove that. We could prove it. They had some people trying to kill me, this guy claimed. I was able to get away by God's mercy. Interesting reliance on God there. I went back a short time later and shot several of them. You should note I didn't fire a single round at any peace officers. Is that supposed to make us feel better about you? I had plenty of opportunity, didn't take it. Now for the report on how many weapons, how much ammunition I had on me. When the cops pulled up next to me in their vehicles, I had an AK pistol aimed right at their heads. I could have left a pile of dead cops, but I didn't shoot. You can ask them yourself. I support law enforcement. Wow. He went on to say, If they come after my wife and kids next time, I won't give them a pass. I don't think you're going to be getting out of confinement anytime in the near future, sir. But this letter is getting almost no attention. And you would figure Amy Klobuchar should have a statement on this. I didn't do a deep dive to see if she had responded to it, but maybe. She's too busy crowing about the loss of funds to NPR. It's just such a strange thing for a 2-page letter from the guy who is currently locked up for killing 2 elected officials, or 1 elected official and a spouse, and then attempting, but the cops did get him. That he's alluding to the fact that the Minnesota governor, former vice presidential candidate, was involved in a plot. It does sound like the rantings of a crazy man capable of murder. So we'll see what happens on this. I just find it absolutely stunning that it has gotten zero attention. Absolutely zero attention. The only place you can see it is on places like Twitchy.com and on Twitter X. Let's take a couple quick calls here. Let's go back to Rick in Reston, Virginia. Rick, welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, sir. Thank you for taking my call. Great show as usual. I just had one more expansion, I think, on the NPR acronym. I think this is more authoritative. It's, I believe, nonstop political re-education.
Ooh, nonstop political. Oh, that's very good. That gets right to the mission, too, doesn't it? Ooh, endless.
Indeed, it does.
Nonstop political re-education. Very well done, Rick. Thank you. Of course, coming out of Reston, Virginia. Robert is in West Virginia. Robert, welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. One quick comment. If they really believe that NPR is the only source of information throughout the flyover country, that could explain why the broadband internet program Biden had took a nosedive. They didn't want it to succeed, because then we'd all have information ourselves. We wouldn't rely on NPR like they think we do.
That's an interesting extrapolation of that. Yes, the plan that we spent billions on to put broadband all across the country, but it doesn't look like anybody got it. More people got broadband thanks to Elon Musk's Starlink network than I think the president's multi-billion-dollar plan. Yeah, they'd have access to, I don't know, this thing called the truth. Very good, Robert. Appreciate you. Let's get to Jerry in Alexandria, Virginia. Hello, Jerry.
Hi. Yeah, my comment is that if people want to hear the content that is in NPR, all you have to do is get a subscription to Sirius, and then you can listen to CNN or MSNBC or any of the left-wing things, and you'll get all the same kind of content. The only difference being is that now you will be paying for it, not me.
Well, I like that. Yeah, if you want it, you buy it. I don't want to have to buy drinks for everybody in the bar. I don't like buying drinks for even my own friends. I'll pay for my own. Thank you, Jerry. Very well done. Let's take one more call on this topic, and then we have so much. We got to keep rocking and rolling. Mike is in Houston, Texas. Hello, Mike.
Hiya, Mike. How's it going this morning?
It's good. It's good, brother. You just waking up in Houston? What's going on?
No, actually, I've already walked the dog, but, it's already well, actually, it's pretty nice in Houston. Humidity level is somewhere below 90%.
That's dry. That's dry. I lived there for 9.5 years. That was a very humid city.
Yeah. I know, man. Yeah, well, hey, Mike, you know what? I consider myself to be a radio expert because I'm from the pre-FM radio genre. And actually, NPR radio only expanded during the 70s, during the FM. And FM is not frequency modulation, only has a real limited range. So people out in the middle of Omaha in Nebraska are not listening to NPR. But you know what? They're the only thing worth listening to on Sunday mornings, because otherwise you're forced to listen to, public service radio. You know that?
Well, yeah,
Sunday morning radio.
The broadcast stations have certain requirements they have to fulfill for their FCC licensing, and some of that is required public service broadcasting, religious broadcasting you'll hear, and a lot of that ends up on very early Sunday mornings. You're right. I don't know if they're ever worth listening to. I remember listening to occasionally Sunday nights when I lived in Texas, in Houston. There was a public radio station there, and Sunday nights they had a show called The Atheist Hour, and it opened up every Sunday night. Their opening music was the song from John Lennon, Imagine. And they'd open up the show with saying, imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. And I would always disagree with them and turn it off. But thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. That's an interesting take on that. It's Mike Opelka. It's the Chris Plant Show. We have to get into some of the craziness that happened on the ESPY Awards last night. I watched them, so you didn't have to, but there was actually some fun stuff. As I said, it's Opelka in for Plant on the Chris Plant Show.
I've become friends with school shooters.
Yes, Tim Walls. Yes, you apparently have, and maybe become friends with or close associates with someone who had something to do with the killing of 2 people in Minnesota and the threats on 2 others, elected officials and their spouses under fire. That's the subject. We were just talking about this letter that got released a couple days ago. The full 2-page handwritten letter from the Minnesota politician assassin, whose name I'm not going to change. I'm not going to give the names of these people. But he claimed in his letter that Tim Walz wanted him to kill Amy Klobuchar so that Tim could be a senator. Why couldn't he just do what Blagojevich did and just sell the seat? Force her to sell the seat somehow. No, you got to resort to murder, for God's sakes. I'm not making a joke about murder, but I am questioning why this story didn't get any attention nationally. Well, we'll keep our eyes on it. Maybe there was just too much news the last few days. All right, first hour almost in the bag here. We do have to get to the ESPY Awards, which were kind of interesting last night. We'll do that next hour. I was curious as to who won the big awards, and I thought, wait a minute, aren't these the awards that gave Caitlyn Jenner the Female Athlete of the Year? I think that was Sports Illustrated that did that, because I went back and I asked Grok, did the ESPYs ever give Caitlyn Jenner Athlete of the Year? And Grok said yes in 1976, but we were calling Caitlyn Bruce Jenner back then. I didn't think Grok had been poisoned. Maybe it has. We're going to have to investigate. We'll get into all this. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show.
I've not been perfect, and I'm a knucklehead at times.